A relationship with the right referral partner could be a game changer for any B2B company. So what if you could reverse engineer these relationships at a moment's notice? Start a podcast, invite potential referral partners to be guests on your show, and grow your referral network faster than ever. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I am your host for today's episode, Nikki Ivy with Sweetfish Media. Guys, I've got with me today Olivier Thierry, who heads up marketing at Quorum. Olivier, how you doing today?
I'm great, Nikki. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Listen, I'm excited for the conversation that we're going to have today. We're going to be talking about when you're in an industry that is going through a transformation, a digital transformation, some of the particular challenges that provides as a marketer and how to navigate that. So excited to get into that. But before we do, Olivier, I would love it if you would just give us a little bit of background on yourself and what you and the folks at Quorum have been up to these days.
Sure. I joined Quorum about 4.5 years ago as the Chief Marketing Officer. And the goal here was to continue the journey of a private equity-backed company in terms of building out the brand in the oil and gas industry. We have 10 major software products that cover what we call the spectrum of the energy value chain, which is everything from every software piece that you might need for getting oil and gas out of the ground, transforming that, transporting that all the way through to the burner tip in your stove. So we've been busy building out software and engaging with customers across all of the oil and gas industry.
I love it. What I love when I talk to marketers or folks who sell B2B is when I get the sense that they understand their role beyond being a vendor into the industry they sell into, and they understand that, success will mean becoming a part of that industry. And there is a difference. And the way that you talk about the problems that you guys solve at Quorum, it sounds like you guys fully understand that and embrace that versus simply just looking at, okay, how do we talk at these people? How do we talk to these people? And more about how do we elevate the industry? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it goes to the roots of how the company was created. It's a 21-year-old company, and its DNA is having deep-seated knowledge of the oil and gas industry. So many of our customers love the fact that the consultants that come along with the software have a terrific understanding of all of the financial, operational, transactional-based accounting needs that these folks have across the various aspects of the oil and gas industry. So yes, in fact, we are solutions experts in oil and gas software.
I love it. And so that's where we get into this idea of how you guys help the folks that you work with to adopt a more digitally synergistic strategy in the face of transformation. Dig into where that begins and paint that picture for us.
Yeah. So, let's first of all talk about where digital transformation has really occurred in the past in oil and gas, and it was predominantly at getting product out of the ground. When a barrel of oil was $100 a barrel, which is not too long ago, most of the dollars were spent. Hey, let's get more out of the ground because we can sell more, and it's highly profitable. All of a sudden now, when you have oil and gas at a barrel price of $50 a barrel right now, or thereabouts, it means you have to become much more efficient, much more operationally savvy in order to make a profit at literally at an oil and gas price which is half what it was. So what we saw was the shift from not just being digitally smart in the field at getting product out of the ground, but being digitally smart all the way through to the back office, all the way through your accounting systems, breaking through the silos of workflow and transactions that you're running in your back office operations. So we've seen that shift from basically field to back office and integrating the two. We saw that transformation begin in 2015.
And so when you say you saw that transformation start to begin, is this just looking at where things, had been trending as from the overall industry, or is that intel that you guys got from your existing customer base?
It's both. The macroeconomic climate was such that oil and gas took a hit. So the price per barrel dropped. So that was an indicator. Our clients or our customers at the time were already indicating that the smarter ones were already starting to think about transforming digitally their operations. Mm-hmm. And then the other dimension was that there was this aging out that was happening in the oil and gas industry. Essentially, the changing workforce, that most of the oil and gas executives, upper middle management were coming to the age of retirement. So you had this triple whammy where the customers were looking for increased business agility, better operational efficiency, and being able to bring in millennials into what was essentially an aging out industry. That all started to converge starting in 2015, and we've been working on that, on solving that convergence. I think since the beginning of 2015, and we're starting to see it now more mainstream, as we hit 2020.
Yeah, so that's an interesting challenge in and of itself, right? When you're talking about trying to craft a consistent brand message and mission when your customer base and by virtue of that your prospect base as well is so diverse. How? Tell us how you guys approach that problem.
Well, if you think about it more, the customer base is diverse in the sense that the oil and gas industry is segmented into essentially upstream, where you get product out of the ground, midstream, where you basically transform it into various different kinds of products. That would be like, for example, if I took oil and gas and then I took gas and I had methane, butane, et cetera. And then you transport it down pipelines and then you ship it and sell it to the retailers. That's what we call upstream, midstream, downstream operations. And so our customers are diverse in terms of where they sit in that energy value chain.
I see.
But their problems are similar, which is rather interesting. So the characteristics of the macroeconomic climate affects the entire value chain. The operational efficiency affects the entire value chain. The ability to break down operational silos and become more agile a business affects the entire value chain. And the fact that they're aging out or there's this changing workforce exists across the entire value chain. So we're actually able to apply a more high-level set of messaging that resonates across the energy value chain to all of our customers. And yet, when you get into the sub-segmentation, then you get into some of the very narrow differentiated elements that are required. But overall, we're able to take the oil and gas industry and treat it more wholly, if you will.
Today's growth story is about a brand we all know well, Airbnb. When they were trying to maximize growth among work travelers, Airbnb knew they needed to develop and execute a content strategy to reach multiple personas at different stages of the customer journey. Enter HubSpoke.Marketing. HubSpoke managed creative content development and crafted a custom publishing process that allowed Airbnb to develop more content in less time. The end result? A lot of content across multiple channels, all strategically nurturing leads through to conversion. Within the first 6 months, Airbnb nearly tripled the number of companies enrolled in their Airbnb for Work program. They also saw huge increases in user adoption, with work travelers booking longer stays and more guests per booking. If you're looking for strategic content at scale, I've got a hunch Hub and Spoke can help. Head over to HubSpoke.Marketing/growth to schedule your consultation with a content specialist today. That's HubSpoke.Marketing/growth. All right, let's get back to the show.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like one of the ways that you do that is kind of practicing what you preach when it comes to, leveraging new partners and new technologies to keep folks engaged across their journey. Talk a little bit about what that looks like for you guys.
Oh gosh, yeah, we've done something that I think is completely unique in oil and gas. So not only was the industry what I would consider to be a little bit of a laggard in terms of IT adoption from a customer perspective, it was also a laggard from a marketing perspective. So if you look at the current stack that we've built over the last 4 years here at Quorum, everything from using AI-based, account-based marketing, universal tagging, persona-based, content, all of that being completely tied together and automated and predictive. That's something that I don't believe any of our competitors in this space have done or are doing. And that's allowed us to really understand in great detail why people come to our website, what they're looking at, what they're engaged with, what next piece of logical content we should serve to them, why, how does that perform? How does that convert? And then, the results after that are obviously, how much of that turns into converted revenue. So, we've built a pretty sophisticated engine to understand what is a very narrow market. If you look at it, it's not something where you've got hundreds of thousands of customers. You're talking about, or potential customers. You're talking about maybe, tens of thousands. So it's a really different, market dynamic.
That's important. I'm glad that you hit on that. Before we move on to the next segment, I want to make sure that I get from you, as you guys have done this, scaled this successfully in this industry that's going through this transformation, other folks who either sell into the same industry or into similar ones, where might they begin in terms of how to invest their time and their, resources?
So when you're looking at a vertical market, your marketing approach is very different than most other industries. So I've done a lot of different PE-backed, VC-backed software companies where I've run marketing. And this one is the first time I've done something so vertically entrenched. And when you have something like oil and gas, or for that matter, anything that's deeply vertical, content really becomes a differentiator. So you have very knowledgeable buyers, and you have also a lot of word of mouth reference checking. So this becomes a very small community of people that know each other and trust each other. So you can't sort of superficially say, oh, well, it doesn't really matter for these customers. We'll do right by the other set that's over on this side or over on this other area. You can't. Everything that you do has to be meaningful, purposeful, has to be deep and rich, and also has to be, really upfront. So it takes a long time to understand. It took us, the team that I built took us a couple of years to really get it. Once you get it, you realize that it's really different than anything in the past. And so what I could give as advice to marketers that are starting down the path of looking at a vertical B2B is it's going to take you some time to really understand how to deliver truly meaningful content that resonates.
Sound advice. And I do think it's key that you talked about understanding when you go into this, that it's going to take time to learn this, especially if you want to do it well, and to enter into it lightly and think, like you kind of alluded to, we'll make it cute, we'll make it, we'll hack this somehow, and folks will like us enough to come on board, and then we'll figure the rest out afterward. Like you said, it can't be that way. You really do have to be, as I said at the top, part of this industry. You have to start with truly wanting to understand how to elevate the thing and really help people. And it sounds like that's what you guys have executed. So thank you so much for laying that out for us the way that you did. There's so much that folks listening can, take from that and hopefully apply in context in their own organizations. But now, Olivier, that I've successfully picked your brain and seen what I could get out of it, it is time for you to tell us about what you're putting in it. So talk to us about something that you engage with in life that is informing your approach, or that's just, got you excited these days.
Well, it's kind of the analogy I like to use is that marketing in some ways is the backbeat to the enterprise, and so that should give you a clue that playing drums is kind of like the backbeat of the business, if you will, for me. So I've been playing drums for about 55 years, and in doing so, it allows me a great vehicle to escape the daily thoughts that you might have about business, about family, about anything. You just basically, when you're playing, you're completely absorbed in that moment. And the thing about drums is that it's a math exercise for me. It's when you're playing essentially different time signatures, you're trying to figure out how to get your limbs to do things that are not necessarily a natural outcome. So you're training, you're creating new muscle memory. And that's kind of what you do in marketing. Whenever you move into a new segment or a new industry, or you hire new people in your marketing organization, you're creating new muscle memory. And so for me, playing drums is kind of like it's cool, it's fun, but it's also a mental and physical challenge. And that discipline allows me to come to work and work with a whole bunch of young folks and impart with them some new muscle memory that they can take forward.
I think this might be my favorite answer that I've ever gotten to this question, because you gave us so much, right? It's everything I ever want to get in an answer, in that we heard not only, like, again, ways that we can think about the things that we engage with and how they apply, but a little bit of insight into what moves you. And I don't think we always get that in, when we've been talking about such, technical, tactical things. So thank you so much for sharing that. I am terrible at both math and playing the drums.
But Nikki, marketing is passion. So yes, there's a lot of science in it, and we do a lot of science. We have a huge MarTech stack. But if you take the passion out of it and you only think MarTech stack, you will never, ever succeed in marketing. You have to bring passion into it.
My goodness. I know that I don't need to say anything else about that, but I know that just like me, everybody who is listening to this has become a fan of yours very quickly, and they're going to want to know how to keep up with you. Olivier, tell us how folks can connect with you.
You can reach me at Olivier_Thierry at qbsol.com. Be happy to respond to your emails, or through quorumsoftware.com. We're always on our social channels, so you can find us, and we'll be happy to connect with you guys.
Thanks so much, Olivier.
You're welcome.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.